Hey everyone, welcome back to JavaScript Zero to Hero. I'm so glad you're continuing this journey with me. In our last video, we wrote our very first JavaScript program and saw Hello World appear in the console. That was exciting. Today we're diving into one of the most fundamental and important concepts in all of programming, variables. By the end of this video, you'll understand what variables are, why we need them, and how to use them effectively in JavaScript. Let's get started. So, what exactly is a variable? Think of a variable like a labeled box or container. The label on the box is the variable name, and what you put inside the box is the value. Variables allow us to store data, give it a meaningful name, and then use that data throughout our program. Without variables, we couldn't build anything useful. They're absolutely essential to programming. Let me give you a real-world example. Imagine you're building a website that greets users by name. Instead of writing hello over and over, you could store the user's name in a variable called username, and then use it whenever you need it. This makes your code much cleaner, easier to read, and easier to change later. Now, in JavaScript, we have three different keywords we can use to create variables: let, const, and var. Each one works slightly differently, and it's important to understand when to use each one. Don't worry if this seems confusing at first. I'm going to show you exactly how each one works with clear examples. Let's start with the most commonly used keyword, let. The let keyword creates a variable whose value can change over time. We call this a mutable variable. Let me create a new file in VS Code so we can see this in action. I'm going to call this file variables.html. Just like before, we'll need our basic HTML structure to run our JavaScript code. Let me type that out quickly. First, the doc type, then the HTML tag, the head section with our meta tags and title, and the body section where we'll add our script tags. Inside these script tags is where all our JavaScript code will go. Now let's create our first variable using let. I'm typing let age equals 25. What did we just do? We created a variable named age and assigned it the value of 25. The equals sign in programming doesn't mean equals like in math. It means assign this value. So we're assigning the number 25 to the variable age. Here's what makes let special. We can change this value later. Watch this. I can write age equals 26. Notice I don't write let again. That's because the variable already exists. I'm just changing its value. This is incredibly useful when you need data that updates, like a user's score in a game, or items in a shopping cart, or the current time. Let me add a console.log statement so we can see our variable in action. I'll type console.log of age. Now let's save this file and open it in our browser. Perfect. Now let's learn about const. The const keyword is short for constant, and it creates a variable whose value cannot change after it's been set. We call this an immutable variable. This is really useful when you have data that should never change. A perfect example is something like pi, the mathematical constant. Let me type const pi equals 3.14159. Once we set this value, we cannot change it. If I try to write pi equals 3, JavaScript will give us an error. This protection is actually a good thing. It prevents bugs in our code. So when should you use const versus let? Here's my recommendation. Use const by default and only use let when you know the value needs to change. This makes your code safer and easier to understand. Other programmers reading your code will immediately know which values can change and which ones can't. Let me show you a few more examples. I'll create a const for my name. Const name equals David in quotes. Strings, that's text data, always go in quotes. I can also create a const for Boolean values which are true or false. Let me type const is student equals true. No quotes for Booleans. Now let's talk briefly about var. The var keyword is the original way to create variables in JavaScript. It's been around since JavaScript was first created back in 1995. However, var has some confusing and problematic behaviors that can cause bugs in your code. For example, var doesn't respect block scope, which we'll learn about in a future video. Because of these issues, modern JavaScript developers avoid using var. Instead, we use let and const, which were added to JavaScript in 2015. These newer keywords fix the problems that var had. My advice is simple. Use let when you need a variable that can change. Use const when the value should stay the same, and don't use var at all in new code. This is what professional developers do. Let me save this file and open it in the browser so we can see all our variables working together. I'll press F12 to open the console. Look at that! You can see all the values we stored in our variables. This is the power of variables. They let us organize and manage data in our programs. Excellent work! You now understand variables, one of the most important concepts in programming. You know the difference between let and const, and you know why we don't use var anymore. In our next video, we're going to explore data types in depth. We'll learn about strings, numbers, booleans, and more advanced types like arrays and objects. Variables and data types work together, so that next video will build perfectly on what you learned today. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. I'm creating new videos every week to take you from zero to professional JavaScript developer. Drop a comment below if you have any questions. I read every single one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Keep coding!